I think we can go. I think out of
Yeah.
respect for everybody's time, we'll kick off. So, Greg, I think I'll start, introduce the webinar. So we'll do introductions on who I am and who Greg is in a second, but we really want to thank you guys for joining our Modern Cashiering Technology webinar. We have an hour allocated, probably will go a little quicker than that is required. So hopefully give you guys some time back. So we'll go through a little bit of the agenda, quick introductions as to who Greg and I are. We'll talk about market trends. Greg's going to run through our cashiering solution demonstration, which we're really excited to show everybody. And then we want to leave a bit of time for Q&A. There is a Q&A box open. I'll be monitoring it, and we have the team at the CityBase office monitoring as well. So please, please, please feel free to utilize the Q&A box, and we'll try to get those answered as we roll through the presentation. Go ahead, Greg. I'll introduce myself, although there's quite a few of you on that know me. Sara Fernandes, Director of Customer and Market Strategy. I am a newbie at CityBase, but well-versed in the industry. Spent a little time in fintech with our partners Paymentus, and spent a little time in the government sector working as a CIS implementation person and salesperson. Before that, came from a county in California, so super familiar with the struggles, kind of the day-to-day operations, and really, really excited to talk to you guys about cashiering today. Greg?
My name is Greg Weppler. I'm in product at CityBase, and I have roughly somehow 15 years of experience in cashiering. I didn't go to school intending to spend 15 years in point of sale and cashiering, but you know what? That's just how the cookie crumbled. So I'm very familiar with the space. I love the space. I'm fascinated by it. I'm super excited about the changes that we're seeing and that CityBase is bringing to the GovTech and utility space when it comes to cashiering. So I'm super passionate about it, and we're going to dive into some of the things that I've been working on. And then obviously, like Sarah mentioned, we're going to talk about some of the trends that we're seeing and you're probably seeing and feeling too.
Thanks, Greg. So real quick, if you guys know me, and if you don't know me, I love to talk. So Greg has given me the ability to talk in a bunch of the slides, and then he'll take over the presentation. But one of the things is like, who is CityBase? So CityBase truly is a solution and a technology company. We want to provide modern solutions for the payment experience. What we really want to focus on today is understanding how important and kind of explaining how important we know cashiering technology and online payment channels can be for you and for your customers, your constituents. So what we focus on is a technology platform first, thinking really hard about problem solving and making government interaction easier for you and for your customers. There's like running joke in the industry that nobody ever shows up on a website in the office and goes like, this was the best payment experience I've ever had. I can't wait to pay another property tax bill. Can't wait to pay another utility bill. What we want to do is create a really modern experience that provides that solution for the customers today. So kiosk, cashiering, online payment channels, serving kind of all over the market. So I know we have some folks from Las Vegas Valley Water on the line. So thanks guys for joining. You can see the logos on the right-hand side, and happy to share many, many more with you if you are interested. Greg, why don't you talk about some of the current market trends?
Sure. Yeah, so we're going to go through a couple of them. And I'm for this first one, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but in-person payments are still a thing. They're still important for a number of reasons. One, the unbanked population still pays in cash, and paying in cash is just not something you can do online yet. And so that requires them to participate in either a city hall or an office or a permit center. And it's everyone's responsibility to be able to take those types of tenders and support that population group. So we're still seeing that as a necessity. The other reason we're not seeing in-person payments disappear is there's still a number of complex transactions, typically too complex for a digital experience. We've seen a lot of easy payments go online, really simple workflows, but more complex transactions, think of maybe around what we call artifact generation, something where I have to like pick up something. Think of maybe like a building permit transaction. I maybe need to take those actual permits physically. Maybe I'm a surveyor and I've purchased actual maps that I need to actually take or get a signature on. That's all business still being done in person. Now, obviously, we've all seen and felt a move and trend towards digital and e-commerce adoption. That absolutely is still occurring, but it's not hockey stick, growth there. It's steady increase, which means, that in-person payment experience isn't just dropping off and is dead today. That's not happening. There's still going to be a necessity for a number of these reasons to take and facilitate in-person transactions. So again, preaching to the choir, you all probably work in person and still see people coming in, and we want to be able to help you support them. A second trend we're seeing, increase in mobile wallet usage. So mobile wallets, think of Apple Pay, Samsung Pay, Google Pay, that tap to pay experience. And that tap to pay experience, just from a product perspective on why it exists to remove friction in making a payment. And think of the experience of you taking your credit card out of the wallet and having to use a terminal versus just tapping your phone and paying. We're saving seconds, but that need to save seconds, technology companies that have invested millions into tap to pay to reduce those seconds. So in payments, in cashiering and e-commerce, from a product perspective, it's all about removing the friction of making a payment. So when we see mobile wallet adoption increasing, something to be cognizant of is, can your terminals accept those tap to pay methods? We're seeing constituents sometimes not even carry physical cards anymore because adoption for tap to pay in retail has been so dominating. Shoppers just don't bring those cards with them with the expectation that they can use their watch to pay or their phone to pay, which they're always carrying. Third one, in-person and e-commerce experiences should be cohesive. So what that means is, last 10 or so years, we've seen software really delineated between, we have an in-person software solution and we have an e-commerce software solution. And those can typically be two completely different solutions. And so when we talk about reducing friction, there's a good amount of friction that can be created by having two different providers essentially doing the same thing, which is fundamentally taking a payment. Now, granted, an in-person experience and an e-commerce experience is certainly different, but fundamentally it's accepting a payment. And so friction created for the constituent, what can that be? Well, my in-person experience, maybe receipts look a little bit different. Maybe I can't accept checks at this type of channel, but online I can do ACH. Receipts look a little bit different on my e-commerce side when I shop there. So having two different systems with different flows and different experiences can be confusing for consumers. Friction can also exist for the staff, for those employees who have to manage two different systems with maybe two different contracts, two different credit card processors, two different ways that they fund, two different reporting suites. I need to pull reporting for payments for my solution, which has this type of reporting. I need to pull reporting for e-commerce, which has this type of reporting. That's additional friction for the staff that can just slow them down and make just generally everything more difficult. So we're seeing this trend of this software bridging these two experiences, and we use the word platform. Platform can generally refer to this like really cohesive suite of products that are fundamentally just taking a payment regardless of the channel. And we've seen that in the industry with the private sector. So and stuff that you're using on an everyday basis. So everyone who's ever ordered food online and have opted for pickup, that whole experience is done digitally, e-commerce. But when you go and pick up the food, you can opt to pay in person and take your card on their point of sale or cashiering system. Same thing, think of Nordstrom Shopping or any major clothing retailer. they often have technology where you can build your shopping cart and then choose, I want to pick it up in person and pay there. So that's bridging the e-commerce world and the in-person world. So it's one kind of seamless experience for the consumer, but there's also a ton of benefits of us having a seamless experience for your staff as well. So
Greg, there was a question that came up in the chat that I want to address because it's really, really important. So the question was, is there a statistic around unbanked Americans? Like, what is the percentage of our population? Right now, it's about 6%. And really we're looking at what that looks like is about, I just had it and now I lost it. Anyways, let's call it 6 million people in the US that are unbanked. What's really interesting about the unbanked trend is that most of those people who are utilizing no bank to pay their bills still are utilizing a mobile wallet to make payments. So although they may be a cash preferred customer, they're still looking for ways that they can provide cash transactions as a deposit onto a mobile wallet to use that device to pay at other places. So hopefully that answers your question, a little bit of the statistics around that unbanked community. And again, trying to be the best customer service that we can for you and for your customers is to say, regardless of the way that the customer wants to pay, we want to support that. And
yeah,
that
and,
is it.
and also be aware there's still a difference between the unbanked population and the cash preferred population.
Mhm.
So there's still a large sector of the population that prefers to just do business in person, do business with cash. They may still be banked, but that's just their preference.
Thanks for the question, Amy.
So
Oh,
other trends we're seeing are around risk. So payments, the payment industry in the last 10 years had jet fuel poured on top of it. It is just it's moving so quickly. The things that you can do just with EMV adoption, with mobile wallets, this has all been technology in the last 15 years that we've seen adopted. And along with adopting new technology comes also adopting to security requirements. PCI, payment card industry data security standards, so PCI DSS is something anybody who accepts credit cards has to be aware of and adhere to. So they're a regulatory body that covers the security and things that you need to do to be able to accept credit cards safely. So 4.0, their new version or new requirements recently being released, and we're seeing things like strengthen authentication controls. So anybody interacting with card data may have to have multi-factor authentication. Is the provider you're using today, are they aware of these changes? Can they continue to update their software to accommodate future PCI requirements? Because there will continue to be more as payments continue to evolve, which, like I said, there's jet fuel on it right now. So the trend being is faster, more frequent security updates, and the thing to be aware of is making sure you have a provider that can continue to move quickly at that same pace. Sarah, you're really familiar with the need for real-time updates. How do you talk about that one?
yeah, it's one of my favorite things. So if you know me, then you know that I think that I'm a technologist and I try really hard to be. And I think one of the keys with all of the technology infrastructure that most government agencies are trying to put in place is that like each piece of that should create a streamlined process, should create less human intervention, should really create a more functional pathway to get to your end goal. And one of the things that CityBase focuses a ton of energy on is being a technology company. So what does that actually play out into in the real world? It means that regardless of the database of record, we want to touch that database to provide the information back to the system. Now, before everybody on the call on our sides, like Sarah, stop, please understand it is all based on the system of record that we're integrating to, whether we can do a real-time integration, a file process. But with all that being said, what we don't want to do is provide a shell of a system that a transaction will hit and then sit in. We want to provide the data back to the system of record. We want to provide the data back to the financial management system. Super duper important to have real-time integration because it goes without saying that we live in a real-time world. So if I buy something on Amazon and it's going to take me 3 days to get it, I'm like, okay, no big deal. if I am at risk of a disconnect, if I have an inspector coming out to do an inspection on a property that I'm building, every single transaction, minute by minute, has real time impact if I don't get it done on time. So
Mhm.
that real time integration is very, very powerful for us, and more importantly, very powerful for you guys to harness that technology to support the interaction and less lag and delay on what that looks like for the customer. So from our perspective, the real-time updates and the technology forward approach is key to what we do. And I think it goes without saying that you really shouldn't be exploring vendors in the marketplace that aren't focused on technology today, because that is the way that things are going. So making sure that a customer who can't make it into the office before it closes at 5 p.m. has the means to pay at a kiosk at a Kroger, or has the means to pay online through a web portal. All of those interactions to stop the disconnect of their water sewer or their electric service or any of those things happening is really, really important to the customer.
Yeah.
Following that is the demand for data protection. And I think where we sit on it is that 80% of customers today want better security with their personal data. Goes without saying. You hear about all of these risks. We know what's going on in the world. What's most important is that when I give my credit card information to my city, county government, that that information is safe and secure and that I don't have to think about it. Greg touched a lot on PCI. That means that you all don't have to think about it as a part of what you're doing for your constituents. So really, really important for us to make sure we're focused on technology and data protection as a means to provide a really nice solution for the customers.
Yeah. Well said.
Thanks. Do my best. Okay, this is a joint slide, but my note says that I'm supposed to say, hey, Greg, as industry leaders, can we talk about some of the things that we're doing in the industry around some of the things that make a difference for our customers? Go
Sure
ahead.
can, Sarah. Thanks. Yeah, so we've touched on a few of these already. I've talked about being on a platform and having cohesiveness between the channels that you accept payments. And so the channels that CityBase is really effective at addressing is not only the e-commerce, so be able to have a digital experience, transact online. We're obviously talking today about cashiering, but CityBase also has a kiosk channel. So self-service kiosks can be deployed, like Sarah mentioned, in a Kroger and a library or a police station. And that's because those are all ways that municipalities collect revenue. It's having a system that can accommodate any method that a constituent wants to pay is super important. So that's what we call multi-channel, is having a payment method that's standardized across all those channels. So we're taking a payment, whether it's from a kiosk, whether it's from a cashiering system, or whether it's from online, that payment is being processed in the exact same way so that it reaches your systems in one standard way. And it's one standard way for the constituent. So when the constituent does business with you, whether it's a kiosk, whether it's cashiering, whether it's online, that business is done in the same way. It has the same feel. Along with multi-channel, I jumped right over multi-agency. Is that the same reasons why multi-channel is important is the same for why having a system to support many agencies is also important. So you can think of an experience where if I go to a city hall and I do business with animal control, and then I go up to the fourth floor to pay my parking ticket, and that experience can be totally different. Maybe they can't accept credit cards yet. The receipt comes out different. I have to, fill out my name and fill out these fields to do the payment. It can be a completely different experience versus saying, when I do business with Tulsa, Oklahoma, regardless of the agency, it's the same exact process. And I touched on reduction of friction as being one of the main rationales for having a seamless multi-agency and multi-channel experience. When constituents do business with you, and it's the same same process, the same workflow, regardless of the channel, regardless of the agency, it really becomes a really simple and easy process for them. In addition, I mentioned a lot of staff benefits. whether you're doing whether your staff and your need to run reports, being able to see, well, I can see a payment from kiosk that's being reported. I can see a payment from a cashiering system that's being reported. I can see a payment from my e-commerce that's being reported, all in one place in one same way. Gives me a lot of transparency into my departments, into my agency, and into the revenue I'm collecting. So multi-agency, multi-channel, that is CityBase's huge value add and huge strength we spend a lot of time focusing on.
So not sorry, Greg, not to interrupt. I want to be really certain that everybody hears this, but I also don't want to be so certain that people are like, okay, that doesn't matter to me. So from an agency perspective, single agency, multi-channel, just the utility department, kiosk, web, and cashiering. Great little option of a simple solution where a customer has many different ways to pay. Obviously, multi-agency, just like Greg said, building department, animal control, utility. So if as you're watching the webinar, you're thinking, that's great, but I don't have all of those agencies, simple, very simple for us to handle both ways. Flip side of the coin, because I know we have quite a few people on the line from the treasury side of the house or the finance side of the house. Please understand, and Greg's going to talk about this later, all of that rolls up into a single line of reporting. So one of the key features to multi-channel, multi-agency is that you're getting all of this data from all of these places. We're passing it back and forth. It's real time, one single reporting tool to get ourselves to a single balancing sheet at the end of the day. Sorry, Greg.
Excellent. No, and that's great, Sarah. Thank you because you touched on in addition to the multi-agency, multi-channel, our focus on having a modern security infrastructure. We are security experts in this space, and it's one of the reasons you would pick CityBase as a software provider is so you don't have to have those sleepless nights of, is my payment infrastructure, is that secure? You know, do I have an opening for fraud? We invest so much into security, and that's something you inherit by using our cloud platform. And Sarah, you also did a great job talking about the need for real-time lookup and posting. And I think we covered having a unified reporting with revenue management. So revenue management is our holistic reporting tool that sits on top of all of our channel applications. So when I mentioned a kiosk transaction that would get reported, the cashiering transaction gets reported, and the e-commerce transaction gets reported. They all get reported into one unified tool, which we call revenue management. And one thing I'm jumping around this list, we'll talk about is PayLink. So one of the trends we discussed was bridging the e-commerce world and the in-person world. And we're going to look at a way that your cashiers can leverage one of these bridge features in the demo. That's our PayLink. Okay. I think it's time for us to stop talking and actually show some cool stuff. So give me a second. I'm going to jump over to demo and take a look at the actual cashiering system. Okay. Thumbs up, Sarah. We can see cashiering.
Nope, we only see the deck. Now we see your face. Guys, it wouldn't be a proper presentation if something didn't get a little silly. There we go. There's cashiering.
Okay, great. Okay. Demo, fun stuff. Cashiering. Firstly, before I demo, I just said I was going to demo, but firstly, before I do, I just want to talk about the back end of CityBase. What kind of makes us a platform? I've talked about the front of the house, which is these customer-facing and staff-facing products. A cashiering system is a really tangible product, a kiosk, and a digital experience. But fundamentally, what CityBase is really good at is in that back of the house is integrations. So all of our products can leverage integrations to your technology, and your technology specifically being a system of record. So think of an Acela, a building permitting software, animal control software, a utility billing system. Our back of the house does integrations to talk to all that technology. In addition to system of records, we're also really good at talking to an ERP system, an accounting system, a general ledger. So everything in this demo, all the transactions that I'm going to show, just know in the back of your head, this can be connected to all of the technology, your entire ecosystem, and we're feeding information to and from those systems. Okay, so we're really, really integrators at CityBase. Okay. Cashiering time. Okay. Completely web-based, which is really, really cool. So everyone can see I'm actually just in Chrome. And that means there's nothing that actually gets installed on any of your computers or devices. So, building permitting, each cashier has their own device and their own computer, right? There's nothing that we go in and install onto those devices. We don't touch them at all. And that gives us a lot of advantages because we can monitor security more efficiently, and we can do all of our updates on our end without ever interrupting your tech. There's no, hey, there's a new download that you have to do before you can start going. It's one of the benefits of CityBase being truly 100% cloud-based. No, there's no technology that's actually touching your systems. Okay, single sign-on support. So logging in, I'm just putting in my email. That's because we support single sign-on. So if you use Active Directory or any other provider, you'll actually control all of the usernames and passwords in that service. We integrate to that service and pull over all of your users or permissions, for example. So I'm going to log in. I'm not going to be prompted for a special, like type in my password. I'm going to use my provider, which is Jump Cloud, but that could be Active Directory for you. And what that could look like is going onto your phone and using multi-factor authentication and saying, yes, that's me. I'm signing in. Okay. On this page with cashiering, we're multi-location. And so we can support many different physical places that you conduct business, which is, different than what you'd expect with, e-commerce solution. In cashiering, you have physical places. You have your north side office, your south side payment center, city hall. So I'm selecting my location, and then we have terminals. And terminals are those, I'm zooming in. So from a location, I'm zooming in and looking at what are those physical places, the actual computers that a cashier is sitting on. And I'm going to use Cityville Office for that. Okay. This is our home screen. So I'm going to give a quick landscape of what we're seeing here. I can go home. I can go to reporting. I can go to orders, which shows all my past transactions. We have drawer history, which shows some of my closeouts, past closeouts, and accounting actions. I have cashier tools to do a closeout, to open the drawer. So that's kind of my top navigation. And then here I can see that I am cashier Greg Weppler. I'm at City Hall. I'm at this terminal. I have this batch. So behind the scenes on Greg is certain permissions. So we support role-based permissions. We have, for example, a cashier level, a supervisor level, and an admin level. And they can all do different things that can be configured depending on your business rules and operations. So example of that would be, we don't want cashiers to have access to reporting, or we don't want cashiers to be able to void or refund. I want supervisors to be able to do those actions. So those can all be configured based off of your existing operations. Okay. What I'm looking at here in this example, this demo environment, I am in Cityville, which is my fake city. And at Cityville, we support a number of agencies and departments. What we're looking at with cashiering, this structure, it's called centralized cashiering, which is a semi-recent trend. And I'll explain what centralized cashiering is and why it's important. Previously, I'd call 5-10 years ago, departments, agencies had a lot of autonomy to make their individual software decisions. And that could mean that my animal control has different software, cashiering, than my building inspection or my parking commission. And that means I have to go to each individual office to do a transaction. So I'd go to animal control, I'd register my dog, then I'd take the elevator up to the 4th floor, pay my parking ticket, take the elevator down to the basement, and take care of my utility bill. I have to go to 3 different places, use 3 different systems. By standardizing that, we can offer something called centralized cashiering. And this is one place, one cashier, one station that has access to all of these different agencies and departments. So think of the experience of going to City Hall and going to a customer service center and saying, I'm here to do this, this, and this. And that cashier can say, great, I can take care of all that business. I can do each of these from my system. You don't have to go to each individual office. That's what centralized cashiering is one station that can facilitate payments for many agencies. And that's that multi-agency support that I've been talking about and explaining on why that's important. So some quality of life features here for the cashier. I can jump down. So if I have to jump to utility, I can click on this and it takes me right to the utility so I don't have to scroll. And then we have a fuzzy search to find items quickly. So I can type in the first couple letters and it will find the item I'm looking for quickly. And that's just quality of life to make the cashier's life easier. If they have a lot of different items they need to navigate through, we want them to be able to search it really, really quickly. Okay. Let's actually run a transaction. That's the core thing that that cashiering is supposed to do. And so we're gonna look at an integrated item. So utility billing. I have to pay a water bill or some type of utility payment. So I can click on my utility billing, and the system's going to ask, how do you want to search? So we can search by whatever the system of record allows us to search. So that could be, I want to search by for an obligation by a last name or by an ID or by an address. It's completely configured, again, based off the system of record. We'll support it. I'm going to put in my utility billing ID. This is all demo information. And at this point, we're reaching out to the utility system saying, what do you have for bill 1001? And it's bringing back to CityBase, oh, this is for Paul. He owes $77. And I can add this item to my cart. Once it's in my cart, I can see all the information that was passed to us by the system of record. So additional information we want to show the cashier to maybe help them conduct the transaction. And when I'm good with that, I can always add more items if I want. But if this is the only item I want, I'm going to hit checkout. And this is the part of the process of how is the customer paying. And I'll dive into each of these briefly. Cashiering, it's a full featured system, meaning we can take credit cards. We support EMV readers. Obviously, we support tap to pay. So it's Google Pay, Samsung Pay, you can tap right on the reader, supports swipe, chip, check. So we can accept checks in a few different ways. We have check readers, so physical check readers that will be deployed like on the desk next to the cashier. And those check readers can ingest the check. We can convert that check payment to an ACH payment. We also support Check 21 or ICL, and that's similar to if you've deposited a check with your phone, you capture an image of it. Our check readers can capture the image of it and process it with that image, and that's really effective for business checks. In addition to those two, we can always just report the check. And that's a scenario where maybe you have Armory that swings by at the end of the day. Armory collects checks, they collect cash, and they deposit that those funds. They drive those to the bank and drop off that deposit. And in that case, we won't convert it to an ACH. We're just going to report it for you. So again, that's all configurable depending on your operations and your preferences. And obviously we can take cash. And so let's just do a quick cash payment. And I'm just going to put in, maybe they just gave me a $100 bill. And I'm going to process this cash payment. Okay. Change is due. Couple things that are happening for the cashier automatically. Well, there's change due. So we pop the drawer automatically. Cash drawer pops. Receipt prints. And I land on the screen saying, well, this is my record, my audit of what just happened. We did an order. It was successful. We created it this time. We finished it at this time 2 minutes later. It was at this place. It was this person. It was this utility bill. I can see all the information tied to it. And then I can see all the details around the payment. Here's the payment ID. It was cash. It was for $77. I gave them $23 of change. It was successful. So as a cashier, I know everything went correctly. Okay, great. But what happened behind the scenes? So as soon as I hit that process payment and I got that success, we also reached back out to the utility system and said, hey, here's a payment coming through. It's for Paul at $77. And simultaneously, we also hit the ERP system or your general ledger saying we have GL code 11.22.33, $77 posted. And all that, depending on your technology, can be done in real time, which has a ton of benefits. So CityBase is not only the software application that's the front end that's conducting the transaction, it's also handling all the integrations behind the scenes. Okay. I'm going to, I'll actually talk about this receipt functionality, which I'm actually really proud of. So we printed a receipt on your thermal printer, but we're talking it's 2024. There's a digital world here. CityBase Cashiering supports emailed receipts, so I can type in the customer's email, and a digital version will pop in their inbox. I can text them that receipt, and I can also do this print full and print full, and hopefully does this share?
Yep, you're
Okay,
perfect.
Full page style of receipt. Just depending on your preference. So there's certain transactions. I talk about building permitting, where building permitting, you'll get a nice little packet of all your permits and a nice folder. And I've seen locations where they then get their staple gun, they staple this flimsy thermal receipt, and it just doesn't match that like tight knit packet experience. And so we want to have a receipt version to support it when necessary. So full page style receipts are printable on your office printer rather than a physical device. So if you don't have a physical device, you can always just send it to your office printer and generate it there. Okay. I'm going to jump back to the home screen and we're going to take a look at a different type of item. And this is an item that isn't connected to a system of record. So we have items that reach out to a system of record for information and bring it into the cashiering. There may be items that don't have one, and a dog registration is a good example of that. And this is where I need to collect information about something. These are completely configurable. So whatever the item you have in the data points that you want us to ask for or capture by the constituent, that's all something that CityBase configures for you. And in dog registration, I'm putting in my name, putting in my pet name. I've had drop down to select that he's a golden retriever, putting in a zip code, and I can see this is read only. It's locked in for $35, and I can add that to my cart. Same flow now as our validated item or item that's connected to a system of record. I can drop this down, see all the attributes I collected, and then land on my checkout screen. And here's what we've already been here. How is the customer paying? We can do something. I'm going to flex a little bit, and let's do a weird one. It's cashiering. It can accept split tenders. And so for this example, I'm going to say, and this is, I don't know why you would want to split your dog registration, but let's just do it anyway. I'm going to put in a manual check. I don't have a check reader here, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way.
As Greg's typing that, the real life example of the split tender that I like is actually when the customer comes in to pay something that they assume is a flat rate based on last year, could be dog license. When they come in with that pre-written check, and then they're like, oh, I didn't know that it went up. They are going to complain about that for the first 2 minutes of the interaction, but then they're going to continue to want to pay with the check that they've already written along with another form of payment at the time.
Great, perfect example. Okay, so I put $10 and I can $10 on my check on my account ending in 8585. As a cashier, that's queued up here, and I can now select a different tender. It automatically defaults to the amount needed, the remaining amount. Now, what's really nice is we've seen this feature used in transactions that require many splits. So I've seen, especially like I keep going back to permitting. That's one of the more complex ones we've seen where there's many different properties that we're getting permits for. We want to queue it all up in one cart, but each property has to be paid with a specific type of tender. In our case, that can be really complex and prone to mistakes by the cashier. So what's really nice about our shopping cart is let's say in our small example here, you know what, I've changed my mind. I'll just pay the whole thing cash. Well, I can just remove and reverse any of those split payments in my cart without having to restart the entire transaction. So it's really, I can build my cart with all my tender types. I can remove them if I make a mistake. I can make corrections. And then when I'm have my final cart ready to go, I'm just going to do this whole thing at a simple $35 cash. I can submit it, and we're going to follow that same chain. This would reach out to a system of record if there's one. This is reaching out to your GL or your ERP system behind the scenes, and then receipt printer prints. My drawer would pop because it's cash. And great, let's just make sure we did everything correctly. Okay, I can see my audit log here. There was a $10 attempt on 8585. The cashier canceled it, and then they did the whole thing with cash. So I have that clean record of what happened, just in case I have to go back and refresh my memory. Okay. I'm going to keep moving along for time's sake. Okay. I want to talk about PayLink, which is one of the new features recently added to cashiering. And Sarah, do you want to cue that up as I
Yeah, for sure. So guys, thinking about PayLink to me became this really interesting conversation. When we think about the traditional cashiering functionality, we think about the customer coming into the office, standing in front of you and having an interaction. And then we think about all these alternative payment methods, the web, the kiosk, all these other ways that they can pay. One of the things that I find to be the most interesting is this like hybrid approach of a customer wanting to communicate and get something queued up and make a payment where we need to interact with them, but they can't make it into the office. I am from Southern California originally, so I'm like, you're on the 405, you're on your way to the office, and you can't make it by 5 p.m. and you have to pay this bill. We all know IVR is an option. We all know online is an option, but the customer needs to define some data with us. They need to talk to us before they can do that. They call into the office. We talk them through what they're paying. So you saw Greg look up an account, look up a building permit based on the data. He has the dollar amount that's associated with it. So in this interaction, Greg is saying to me, okay, the total that you owe is $100.23. This is all cashiering prompted because that centralized cashier is responsible for the interaction with the customer. Once they get to the payment portion, we're no longer taking credit cards over the phone because we understand compliancy. We don't want to take them out of anywhere besides this experience that we're having. So Greg is going to click on the PayLink option. Go ahead, Greg, you go.
So with this PayLink option, what I just did prior, what Sarah's explaining really well, is I've done the hard part for the customer. Is I'm talking to them over the phone, they've struggled, and I've gone ahead and did the hard part, which is that lookup for them and the finding their debt and putting into their cart for them. Okay, because that can be a really intimidating experience if they're not used to going to a digital website, navigating it, finding the right thing, putting it in their cart, and then making a payment. So often we'd see them call the agency and say, hey, I need help. Can you help me do this? To Sarah's point, the cashier can only help so far because if they're not allowed to take payments over the phone due to PCI compliance, well, there's a stop right there. You may have to transition them to IVR, or you just have to give them handwritten instructions. Okay, write this down. Go to www.website.com, click on this link, and then you'll find pay, type in this number. It can be a really confusing experience. So with our cashiering system, the cashier can do all of that for them, that hard part, getting the item in the cart. And now all we're going to do is we're going to send this cart directly to them. And we can email them a link to pay, or we can send them a text message and they can pay on their phone. And I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to send this to myself. So as a cashier, I'm going to send this cart that I prepped. As a cashier, I can see, okay, my PayLink has been sent. Great. I'm going to switch now. I'm going to pretend I'm the constituent who's getting this payment. And I'm going to jump over to my inbox. Can we see this?
Yes, you're perfect.
Okay, great. I have an email. It's from Cityville. Okay. Again, this would be branded, for whatever municipality or client that you are. It says, oh, wait, I have a payment due. It's for me, it's for Ron, and it's for the building permit. Okay, great. This is exactly what I was trying to do business with. And it's going to take me now to my digital world. Okay. So again, bridging this in-person experience with this e-commerce experience. And so as a constituent, I can now finish this payment from my computer or from my mobile device. And so I can see, okay, this is my building permit. There's my name. I'm going to check out with wallet. And this is just like you would shop on Amazon, you have your own account. And when you have your own account on Amazon, you have your stored credit card information, you have your checking account on here to make a payment. And I can just select, I want to pay with this card. I have all of my billing information already saved in here. And I'm going to just agree to my terms, make sure I'm human, and I'm going to process this payment.
So I hear everybody, even though I can't hear anybody going, okay, so why wouldn't they just go to the website? Perfect. Why wouldn't they? You guys are the experts. Help us understand. Why do the customers not just go directly to cityville.com and make that payment? Why wouldn't they just call it in? We don't know. These are the questions that we have. So part of solutioning isn't going, these are the things that we want them to do. It's that these are the things that they're doing, and we just want to support them through it.
Yeah.
The flip side of this, which is not cashiering related, but I need to make sure I say it out loud. Everybody talks about adoption when it comes to web transactions. It's a very, very, very big deal to understand how often the customers are going to the web. If, as part of your strategic planning at your business, it is to drive adoption, queuing up a transaction that would normally go through a cashier and getting that customer to sign up on the web, to see the options for enrollment, to experience what that website is like, is super crucial to their overall feeling about working with you guys. So this is a great little hook from cashiering to web with very, very little lift on the customer side.
Exactly. It can often be their first touch with a digital experience. Is they're calling in, maybe they have difficulties and they're confused. Like I said, you're doing that hard part for them, and then you're sending them the easy part, which is just go ahead and put in your credit card information. You know how to online shop. You've done that before, hopefully, and you can fill out that. You can just do the easy part. Back at the cashier now, once that payment gets made, as a cashier, this gets updated. I can see, oh, the constituent, they closed the loop. They made that payment. We've captured it. Oh, great. It was $100. They paid a service fee for it, and I have my payment. It was successful. I know that this whole circle is closed and they were successful. Constituent also gets emailed a receipt so that they know it was made correctly. And we're really excited about this feature because, like Sarah mentioned, we want to have something that bridges this in-person experience with the online experience. How can we help get customers to a digital experience if that's what strategically we want to move them to? We can leverage a cashiering system to actually promote that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I want to save some time for Q&A. So I'll cover, I want to cover reporting really quick because that's super important.
While you're moving to that, I have a question and I need to ask you because whoever put it in is an anonymous attendee, so I can't follow back up with them. The question is, are the receipts at an itemized level or an aggregate level?
Yeah, both actually. So the receipts will actually, you know what? Here, we'll pop over to one. So depending on the receipt, we can show individual line items along with all the custom information that's tied to it. A better example, actually here is our full page. And so this was one utility payment where we can render all of the line item information on it. And if there's multiple utility billings, you would see multiple lines for that. We're going to aggregate it at the bottom for you though. So both. Okay, good question. Okay. Reporting, obviously a huge part of cashiering. What we're looking at is just some out-of-the-box reports that we prepare. These can be configured based off of the agency. So whatever data is important for you, we'll be able to build it out. And I have here just who's my most productive cashier. What's my most productive terminal? Like where are most people landing? What's the busiest hour of the day? So maybe that's when I know I want to bring on an extra cashier to alleviate the increase in volume. Different locations, revenue, cash deposit. So a number of information. Again, these can be configured to your needs, and they're all exportable into a CSV, which is really nice in case you need to share it with somebody else. Okay. I'm going to jump over to our end of the day, our closeout. So we're dealing with cash, and I'll do this quickly just to save time because we're coming up on the end. At the end of the day as a cashier, I need to wrap up and close my drawer. So full featured cashiering system means we can manage that cash. Some information here that we show, what are we floating? And so the float amount is what am I leaving in the drawer for the next session? Okay, because somebody else maybe tomorrow morning is going to come and work and we want to have change in the drawer available for them. So we can set those defaults again based off of the location or agency that you're in. And this the cashier has to answer one kind of core question, which is how much cash is in the drawer. So we give them the opportunity to open their drawer, count up what's in there, and we do what's called a blind closeout. This is accounting best practice. We don't show them what's supposed to be in the drawer. This is just to prevent opportunities for theft. Okay, so that's why it's blind. Is I'll put in an amount, I'll confirm it, and if I'm not correct, we'll give them the opportunity to go back and edit it, or they can continue. There may be valid reasons why there should be a discrepancy, and so we can allow the continuation. And when I continue, we're going to get logged off, and we're going to have a number of reports generate that cover what happened during that cashier session. And I can see some of the most important information. We have a cash deposit. That's what's going to the bank. And then how did we get to that cash deposit? The key information here is that I have a pretty big discrepancy. I was under by a pretty drastic amount. But all that information is now outlined here. Okay, because the session's closed, it's no longer blind. We can now show this is what should have been in the drawer. We have integrations to, like I mentioned, your ERP and your general ledger. So this discrepancy can also be attributed to a GL code and communicated directly to that ERP system, which is really nice. Some other reports that generate, but just what we're centralized cashiering. So I need to know what agency, what were the sales for each agency. In addition, I didn't do any check payments, but if there were any checks, I'd have the check number, total number of checks, what transaction they correlate to, and the amount. And this is all information to help that cashier close out their day, give them the information because that they need. If they're collecting checks, we know that they're going to write on a bag each check number and the total amount. So we want to provide them information so they can reconcile quickly.
Okay, Greg, in the interest of time, I want you to throw up revenue management. We have a question in the chat that I totally am happy to address. So this anonymous attendee is my favorite. And they said, what if I already use a payment processor like Paymentus? Can this data show up in the agent dashboard instead so I can keep everything in one place? So yeah, what we want to do is provide as much data into the single line of reporting that we possibly can. Big conversation to have about what that looks like and what you're looking for. In the interest of you queuing me up into this next section, Greg is showing our revenue management tool. So Greg, why don't you take a minute, 2 minutes and talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So we've been really focused on cashiering, which again is just one channel, but you have a complex ecosystem that can be multi-channel. You accept payments on the web, or maybe you're using self-service kiosks. This is the portal for my higher level staff. Think of maybe treasury, finance, where I don't need all the granularity of each individual item that's in the cashiering system. I just need to know how much money came through. Was it a credit? Was it a debit? What was the payment method? And so this is one portal where I can have all that information fed to me, and then I can filter. Well, I just want to see cashiering information, or I just want to see web information, or just kiosk information. Or I want to see all of it in one place. And that's exactly what this revenue management tool is designed to do, is all of your payments, regardless of the channel, regardless of the agency, are all being fed into one spot. So as staff, I have unlimited transparency. I know exactly what's coming in, and I can do my reporting and reconciliation infinitely faster because it's all in one singular spot.
Love it. Love it. There is a ton of questions in the chat, so I won't drill through all of them. I think, Greg, anything else that you want to make sure that you highlight, anything else that you've been thinking about in your day-to-day world of cashiering?
There's a lot that I think about, but I hopefully I barfed enough information that everyone that is digestible. So I hope I covered it all. I think I did.
I think you did great.
I mean, this could have been a 5-hour demo with me. So it's more harder to do this in an hour than go longer.
Yeah, and we appreciate everybody being on, and we appreciate you guys joining. We appreciate you guys taking the time. Cashiering is something that I think could have been this kind of like lost art because of COVID. We've seen the reinvigoration of the need for in-person transactions, so we're really excited to be able to provide a best-in-class solution for your customers today. Greg, can you go to the next slide, please? So again, our friends at Paymentus are all here, and I'm happy about that. One of the things that we did jointly with them, when was this, Greg? Was this 2 months ago now? I think it was 2 months. Was that we did a talk with Nashville Electric on igniting change through modern payments. And if you are in the market and you're looking at this stuff, ignore myself, ignore Greg, listen to your peers. So the folks at Nashville Electric basically just had us all with our jaws on the floor, listening to how they handled payments and the changing that the customers are demanding. So it's a really, really cool talk. I know the link is on the page. If you go onto our website, you can get it. If you need it, feel free to reach out to myself, to Greg, to anybody on the CityBase team. Hit our website looking for it, and we will get it to you, because it's one thing to hear it from the vendors. It's a completely different experience to hear it from your peers. Nashville Electric's done a lot of really cool things. So it's really, really nice to hear that like joint experience of CityBase and Paymentus. Is a really powerful way to provide a solution to your customers. So I know I was going to give everybody so much time back. I was like, we're going to be so fast. 2 minutes to spare. We really want to thank you guys for your time and your energy. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to a rep if you have one, a staff member, if you know me, someone on the Paymentus team. We are happy to support you guys as you walk through this experience. Greg, thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I'll piggyback off your thanks. Thank you for letting me go through cashiering with you. I'm obviously extremely passionate about it, and I'm always available to go through some of the more complex challenges you have. I'm in product, like that's my expertise. The space is my expertise. So I'd love to have more conversations with anyone at any moment. So please reach out to us, and I can always connect with you one-on-one. So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.